Hey, what is this? Wasting money that isn't yours. You're such a useless wife. During a boat trip with my parents-in-law, my husband James lost his temper and hurled insults at me. What? No, you're wrong. This is a gift I bought with my own hard-earned money. James always needs to feel superior. So when I use my earnings to buy something nice, he feels inferior and grows resentful. When I gave Elizabeth her gift, it triggered James' outburst. His voice grew louder as he continued his tirade. Then, unable to contain his frustration, James did something unthinkable. Enough. We're getting divorced. I'm taking the boat back. Your mobile phone is confiscated. Swim back. You lead weight. He left me behind on a rocky cliff, taking Elizabeth with him on the boat. Goodness, James, that's a bit much, don't you think? She's probably crying her eyes out right now, stranded back there. James and Elizabeth smugly assumed I was overcome with despair as they headed back home. Meanwhile, I quietly muttered to myself, "All right, I'll give you what you want. Let's get divorced. Do whatever you please." Reaching the end of my patience, I made up my mind. Luckily, I had two mobile phones, one for personal use and one for work. I quickly used my work phone to make an emergency call to someone. "Hello, I need a favor." Then I rushed back home ahead of James and Elizabeth to prepare for their surprise. Actually, Dorothy, work as an office employee. James and I met when he visited my company as a salesperson, and after his relentless pursuit, we got married. After our wedding, James wanted me to quit my job and stay at home. "Are you planning to keep working, Dorothy?" "I'm busy with my own work, so I'd like you to be a full-time housewife and support me." However, I didn't want to quit my job. "I'd like to keep working, if that's okay. I want to gain more experience in the workplace." "All right, if that's how you feel, I won't stop you." With his approval, I continued my career. Not long after our marriage, my parents-in-law started visiting our newlywed home. Elizabeth, my mother-in-law, didn't like that I prioritized work over being a housewife. Goodness, always about work, isn't it? Poor James. I tried to defend myself repeatedly, but I discussed this with James, and we agreed I'd keep working. Many families today are dual income, after all. Still, Elizabeth was not convinced and kept voicing her complaints with a sour expression. One day, I came home to find that the entire house had been rearranged, with even the furniture I'd just bought replaced. "What? The room? What's going on here?" I was shocked by the tacky decor, and just then, Elizabeth appeared from the back. "The room looks different. Did you do this, Mother?" "Yes, I did. Since you're not taking care of the house, I did it for you," Elizabeth replied with a smile. "You might not understand, but James has always hated the way the house looked before," she added snidely. Then, as if doing me a favor, she handed me the bills for all the new furniture and appliances. All of my favorite pieces had been sold to a second-hand shop, and some were even listed on a flea market website. I'd worked so hard to collect those favorite pieces. While I was lamenting, James came home. What's with this room? It's so dreary. Feels like an old person's house," he remarked, clearly taken aback. Elizabeth interjected before I could respond. "How is it? The previous decor was gaudy and tasteless, so I redecorated for you. Isn't this much better?" James, who has an odd sense of filial piety, didn't dare oppose his mother. "Well, yay. Honestly, the old room wasn't very relaxing." He even went so far as to agree with Elizabeth. "See, I told you so." Hearing James' words, Elizabeth turned to me with a smug smile of satisfaction. "Since our marriage, James had been entrusted with a major project at work, and the stress had made him irritable even at home. I wanted to discuss his parents with him, but with our conversations dwindling, it didn't feel like the right time. Meanwhile, my parents-in-law made themselves at home in our house, dropping by whenever they pleased. I reluctantly began cooking dinner for them as well, only to have my efforts met with complaints. Alan, my father-in-law, took one bite of my food and laughed. "Come on, what is this? There's no way I can eat this." Elizabeth wasn't any kinder. "This isn't James' style. It doesn't suit his tastes," she said dismissively. Sometimes, they would criticize the food just by looking at it. This looks awful. Who could possibly have an appetite for something like this?" They would leave without touching the food and head out to eat elsewhere. On top of that, since my parents-in-law began visiting, my bags and accessories often went missing. I didn't want to suspect anyone, but every time Alan and Elizabeth came over, my belongings seemed to disappear. Without any proof, I stayed silent. But one day, I saw Elizabeth wearing an accessory that was clearly mine. "Elizabeth, I think that accessory belongs to me," I cautiously confronted her, and she retorted, "Someone like you, who can barely earn anything and relies on James, has no business flaunting something this nice." "What? Besides, this design doesn't suit you at all," she added without a hint of shame. Defeated, I let out a sigh and resigned myself to the situation. Then came Elizabeth's birthday. On that day, James was unusually cheerful and invited me to join a boat tour to celebrate her special day. "What do you say, Dorothy? Why don't you come along?" "A boat tour? Did you rent a boat for the occasion?" "No, I bought it myself," James replied proudly, boasting about his new purchase. Hearing this, my parents-in-law chimed in with their usual remarks. "Thanks to James, you get to enjoy such a luxurious life. You should be grateful. You'd never have this on your own." "That's right. You've probably never even been on a boat before, have you?" The passive-aggressive comments didn't stop. Although I wasn't thrilled about the idea, I decided to join since it was Elizabeth's birthday. Even as we sailed toward our destination, the snide remarks from my parents-in-law continued. But amidst their relentless barbs, the boat passed through an exclusive area accessible only by water, revealing a stunning view. "Oh my, what a beautiful sight!" I exclaimed, feeling for a brief moment that coming along wasn't so bad after all. To take in even more breathtaking scenery, we docked the boat and headed to a famous cliffside. "Look at this necklace. Isn't it lovely? James gave it to me as a birthday gift," Elizabeth said, proudly showing off her present. "By the way, Dorothy, didn't you bring anything for me?" "Hey now, today's Elizabeth's birthday. Don't just stand there enjoying yourself like a guest," my parents-in-law scolded. I had prepared a gift, something Elizabeth had mentioned wanting several times. "Actually, I do have something for you. It's that item you said you wanted before." I handed it to her, hoping she'd be pleased, but instead, her expression darkened immediately. "Oh, is this your way of trying to get on my good side?" "What? No, I just wanted to make you happy, that's all," I replied, startled by her reaction. But Elizabeth scoffed. "There's no way you could afford something this nice." "Exactly. Stop using James' money to make yourself look good," Alan shouted at me. James, who had been in a good mood, quickly joined his parents in souring the atmosphere. "Come on, Dorothy. Are you seriously claiming you bought this on your own?" he said, stepping toward me. "Spending someone else's money so recklessly you're truly useless as a wife." He then hurled a barrage of insults at me, harsher than anything I'd ever heard before. "What? No, that's not true. I bought this gift with my own earnings," I protested. James had always needed to feel superior. If I possessed something of high quality, or purchased expensive items without hesitation, it triggered a sense of inferiority in him. From the beginning of our marriage, his intention was to assert dominance by pushing me to quit my job and stay home. Whenever I used my own earnings to buy something nice, James felt as though his status was being undermined, causing him to harbor resentment. Seeing the gift I had prepared for Elizabeth seemed to ignite that buried frustration. His verbal attacks on me showed no signs of stopping. And then, driven by his growing irritation, James took an outrageous step. "That's it. We're done. I want a divorce." "What? You can't be serious," I stammered. "Yes, I am. And just so you know, the boat and your mobile phone is mine now. Swim home, you lead weight." With those cruel words, he left me stranded on the cliffside and returned to the boat with his parents. "James, don't you think that was a bit much?" Elizabeth remarked half-heartedly. "Bah, serves her right. She's probably crying her eyes out by now, left in that spot," Alan replied smugly. They all seemed quite satisfied with the thought of my supposed misery as they leisurely sailed away. "Unbelievable," I muttered to myself, finally reaching the limit of my patience. "Fine. Have it your way. I'll give you the divorce you want, and you can enjoy your freedom." I've reached my breaking point. Luckily, I always carried 2 mobile phones, one for personal use and another for work. I immediately took out my work phone and placed an SOS call to my butler. "Hello, I need a favor," I said. Within minutes, my butler arrived, piloting a luxurious cruiser. What James doesn't know is that, due to my family's circumstances, I've had a butler assigned to me since I was a child. "Thank you for coming all the way out here." I climbed aboard, grateful for his timely arrival. "Let's head back quickly. I need to reach the house before they do." The cruiser, much faster than James' modest boat, sped back toward shore. While James and his family were still leisurely returning on their boat, I arrived home ahead of them, with plenty of time to act. I wasted no time gathering my belongings. "All set," I said to myself after packing. As I looked around the poorly redecorated room, which Elizabeth had so tastelessly revamped, I felt no hesitation. What an awful bunch they turned out to be. There's nothing left for me here. I need to get out before they come back. Before leaving, I placed a copy of the divorce application on the table with a note. "Here you go. Just as you wished. The divorce papers have already been filed with the court." Having completed my preparations, I walked out of the house for the last time. For the time being, I returned to my family home. The next day, calls began flooding my work phone from none other than James. James. How does he have this number? I wondered. My work contact information was something I had never shared with him, which puzzled me. Later, I learned about the series of events that led to James finding my work phone number. The day James and his parents abandoned me at the cliffside, they returned home oblivious, laughing and joking about the situation. That was hilarious. "But wow, it's gotten so late," Elizabeth remarked. "Well, we did take our sweet time," Alan replied casually. When they finally arrived home late at night, they were met with a startling sight. All of my belongings were gone, and a copy of the divorce application was sitting prominently on the table. James exclaimed, visibly confused. "Wait, what? Why are all her things gone? And what's this divorce application doing here? Could she have somehow beaten us back here? But how?" Elizabeth and Alan were equally baffled. "Maybe this divorce application is fake," Elizabeth speculated. "James, check it out." James picked up the application and examined it closely. "No, this isn't fake. This handwriting is definitely Dorothy's. It can't be. Elizabeth muttered in disbelief. James stood frozen, trying to piece it all together. It doesn't make sense. Even if we took our time, how could she, left stranded on that cliffside, have possibly gotten back before us? He pondered aloud. No matter how hard they fought, the answer eluded them. There's no way she could have left that spot on her own. What the hell did she do? Still clueless, James decided to take an extreme step. He showed up unannounced at my workplace. Crafting a convincing excuse, he managed to obtain my work phone number from my colleagues. Reluctantly, I answered his call. "Hello," I said, my tone already tired of the drama. James wasted no time and launched into his tirade. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted. "How did you manage to get back before us? What kind of sneaky trick did you pull?" I responded calmly, almost nonchalantly. "Oh, that. I just had someone pick me up." "Someone? Who?" he demanded, his voice rising further. "My butler," I replied simply. "I've had a butler since I was young." James scoffed loudly, clearly not buying a word of it. "A butler? Are you even listening to yourself? What nonsense. Stop making things up, Dorothy." Even though I'm telling the truth, James refuses to believe me. "What's with this mysterious rich person act? Are you just making this up because you're mad about being left behind? Don't try to show off," he said mockingly, as if to ridicule me. "I'm only telling the truth," I said with composure. "Whether you believe me or not, it doesn't change the facts. My butler picked me up in a private cruiser, and that's how I beat you home." Private cruiser, butler. And what next? This is absurd. I can't deal with this level of delusion anymore. Laughing mockingly, James accused me of lying. "Then how exactly did I manage to get back before you? Are you saying I swam all the way back? That's what I want to know. How did you do it?" "It seems you don't believe my story," I said calmly. The truth was that my family was far wealthier than James could ever imagine. My father was the owner of one of the top publicly traded companies in the United States and held shares in numerous other businesses. Because of this, I had been accompanied by a butler since childhood, always ready to assist me. I told James, "If you don't believe me, let me enlighten you. You must know my dad's name, right? Just look it up online. His name is prominent enough to show up instantly." "What?" he muttered, looking skeptical. As I suggested, James pulled out his phone and searched for my father's name. His expression changed dramatically as he stared at the results. "Wait, what? Dorothy's father is a big shot." He was so stunned that he couldn't find the words to speak. "Now you understand, don't you?" I said. "That's why I have a butler. And yes, my family owns a private yacht." Still unwilling to fully accept the truth, James continued to interrogate me. "Then why are you working at some random company? If your dad owns a corporation, why didn't you just work for him? This still doesn't add up. Are you lying?" I had chosen not to work for my father's company. There is a reason for that. Someday, I would inherit my father's responsibilities, but I wanted to experience the world on my own terms and gain real-life knowledge outside of my family's influence. As I've explained before, James, I wanted to gain practical experience. I've been learning about the world by working at a place unrelated to my father's company. That's why I was employed at a regular company. While I had mentioned to James that my father was a business owner, I hadn't gone into detail about the extent of his influence. My father was constantly traveling for work, and James and I were both busy with our respective jobs. Because of this, there was rarely an opportunity for my father and James to meet and talk. Moreover, James had shown little interest in my family. So he never imagined that my father was such a prominent figure. So that's it, James said bitterly. You kept quiet about being related to someone so powerful. You've been deceiving me all along, haven't you? Looking down on me from your golden pedestal. His interpretation of my story was completely off the mark. Driven by his need to feel superior, James couldn't process my background without succumbing to his insecurities. Why would you think that? I asked, exasperated. I've never looked down on you, I said with a sigh. Your victim complex is astounding. James's anger boiled over as he shouted, Enough! So I'm just some lowly commoner? Huh, fine. Have it your way, I'll divorce you. James spat venom at me. You've always acted high and mighty, so full of yourself. It's obvious you look down on us commoners. A woman without any charm or humility is as good as done. With that, he hung up the phone. The way James reacted as soon as he found out my family was wealthy. What's his problem? Does he really hate rich people that much? I chuckled to myself, wondering when I had ever acted superior to him. He must have just wanted someone he could dominate, I murmured. The truth was, James had a mistress named Carrie. Feeling triumphant after deciding to divorce me, James thought to himself, now that the divorce is settled, it's time to call Carrie. She's the kind of woman who knows her place, the type that follows a man's lead. She'll be thrilled to hear the news. James then called Carrie to share his supposed good news. Guess what, Carrie? The divorce is final. We can finally be together now. James fully expected her to be delighted, but to his surprise, Carrie sounded uneasy. Wait, what? You got divorced? Why? Why else? For you, of course. Oh, I see, Carrie said, her tone neutral rather than excited. Something felt off. Hey, what's wrong? Aren't you happy? It's not that. It's just. Carrie's behavior seemed strange, and before James could press further, she ended the call. After that, James was unable to get in touch with Carrie. Why won't she answer my calls? What's going on? Panic started to set in. I threw Dorothy away because I had another woman lined up. But if I can't reach Carrie, I'll be left all alone. Desperate, James did something unbelievable. He contacted me, the very woman he had divorced. Dorothy, it's been a while, he said, attempting a casual tone. What do you want? I asked coldly, immediately suspicious of his motives. Don't sound so harsh. I actually have some good news for you. And what's that? Rejoice. I've decided to cancel the divorce, he declared, as if he expected me to jump for joy. Did he truly think I would be happy to hear this? In reality, I knew that James had been having an affair. The day he invited me on a boat tour, unusually cheerful, I realized it was because his relationship with Carrie was going well, and he was in high spirits. Suspecting that James might be cheating, I hired a private investigator to gather evidence of his infidelity. The results were shocking. James and Carrie were meeting nearly every day. So I responded firmly, No, I don't want to. You were having an affair, right? There's no way I'd want to live with someone who cheated on me. What? How did you? James was surprised, thinking his affair had gone unnoticed. I've got all the evidence, I told him coldly. If you don't accept the divorce, I'll bring this to mediation and fight with the proof of your affair. I rejected his attempt to reconcile, knowing I had the upper hand with the evidence. Further investigation by the detective revealed that Carrie, too, was already engaged to someone else. What's this about? She's already engaged. How could she cheat on her fiancé with a married man? Unbelievable. For Carrie, James had just been a fling. I never expected him to actually divorce his wife. If he's getting so serious, it's a problem for me. I already have someone I'm committed to, and now I'm stuck with this mess. Carrie, overwhelmed by James's serious intentions, decided to end things with him. So what now? Are we going to settle the divorce? Fine, I'll do it. I'll accept the divorce. James finally gave in, seemingly defeated. At that time, Elizabeth's house was flooded with overdue bills. I hadn't paid any of the furniture and appliances they had bought without my consent. Why do I have to pay for the ugly furniture they bought without asking me? I ignored the invoices Elizabeth handed me. Furthermore, on the day they abandoned me at the cliffside and went home, Elizabeth had happily used a credit card to make a big purchase. They thought to themselves, we'll just bill them later for this credit card payment. But I left the house and didn't return. Hey, why hasn't she paid for the furniture yet? And now she's gone, so we can't charge her for these card expenses either. As a result, Elizabeth found herself overwhelmed with unpaid bills and was unable to resolve the situation. Desperate, Elizabeth turned to James for help. James, the card bills are piling up. Please help us. But the amount was so large that James's income alone couldn't cover it. He was stunned when he saw the total. What the hell is this amount? There's no way I can pay something this huge. You've got to be kidding me. Why did you spend like this without any plan? Both James and Alan angrily shouted at Elizabeth. They tried to figure out a way to make the payments, but nothing worked. Eventually, Elizabeth, unable to borrow any money due to her age, had no choice but to take up a part-time job. However, Elizabeth had never worked much in her life. She was slow to learn and clumsy, and the younger employees, who were more than a decade younger than her, looked down on her, criticizing her for being unable to do the job properly. Every day, she was scolded while working. Why is this happening to me? Still burdened with a huge amount of debt, Elizabeth could not afford to quit her job and continue to work, tears in her eyes. Meanwhile, James had told me that the boat we used for the tour was his, but that was a lie he told to impress us. In reality, the boat was a rental. While they were laughing and heading home after abandoning me on the cliffside, they got distracted and accidentally damaged part of the boat. Oops, this is bad. Although the damage was minor, James felt guilty. What am I going to do? How should I handle this? After some thought, James decided to abandon the boat without returning and paying for it. The rental shop repeatedly contacted him afterward, but James ignored them. How persistent they are. If I just don't answer the phone, it should be fine. I'll just keep ignoring them. However, one day the police showed up at his door. The rental shop had filed a complaint, and they had come to investigate. Damn it, those bastards. They reported it to the police. James, panicking, started to cause a scene. Stop, I don't know anything about it. He refused to go with the police. But of course, he couldn't resist them. Overpowered, James was taken to the station. As a result of not returning the boat for such a long time, he was charged with a crime. In addition, James had foolishly assumed that he didn't need insurance when renting the boat, so now he was faced with a huge claim for damages due to the boat's destruction. Although James had been an outstanding employee, contributing greatly as a top salesperson, he had been planning to take things to the next level. He had set up an office to start his own sales agency the following year. However, his arrest made those plans difficult to carry out. James served a short prison sentence and was released quickly, but the news spread, and starting his business with no credibility became nearly impossible. All the clients I was counting on are pulling away. If I hadn't been arrested. As a result, the office he had built for his new business, along with the construction costs, became nothing but debt. Having lost his job and burdened with huge debts, James became desperate and went to Carrie's workplace. "Hey, Carrie, don't think you can just leave me and live happily on your own." James, furious that Carrie had abandoned him, stormed into her office. "Wait, is that James?" Carrie, seeing him, turned pale. "Why are you showing up at my workplace? We were just having fun. Please, leave me alone." Carrie, who never imagined James would show up at her workplace, was so flustered by the situation that she tried to silence him in any way she could. "Shut up, you're coming down with me." But the security guards, alerted by the commotion, quickly arrived and threw James out. However, this incident caused Carrie's affair to be exposed to her fiancé, and she ended up getting divorced soon after their wedding. "James, you idiot. What was supposed to be a light-hearted fling turned into this mess." At work, Carrie was given cold stares from her colleagues after the scene James caused in the office, and unable to bear the tension, she quit her job. Alone in her room, Carrie lamented, "If only I hadn't had that affair. My life is ruined." Afterward, Carrie reportedly went to live quietly in her family's countryside home. "As for me, I am currently learning the ropes of the family business alongside my father. I've also had new encounters and am living a stress-free, happy life." On the other hand, James is burdened with debts, unable to pay rent, and has been kicked out of his home. He now lives in poverty at his parents' house. Elizabeth and Alan are both working tirelessly to pay off their debts, but they are worn out and growing thinner. "It's all your fault in the first place," Alan says to Elizabeth. "What? You didn't stop me when you saw it happening," Elizabeth retorts. "The entire family is stressed out from work and debt, and fights are constant." James struggles to find steady work and bounces between day jobs, working just enough to slowly pay off his debts. "Hey, Dorothy, how have you been? Oh, your family's rich." "Right." Every now and then, I'd receive calls from James, as if he'd suddenly remembered me. But knowing it was likely another plea for money, one day I finally blocked his number. Since then, I haven't heard anything about James and his family.
My name is Cecile. Just the other day, my elementary school-aged daughter surprised me by asking, "Mom, can you teach me how to do makeup?" I'm 39. Girls these days seem so mature for their age. Now that I think about it, as a little girl, I was thrilled with inexpensive candies that came with pretty toy necklaces, or lipsticks from capsule toy machines. It feels like just a moment ago I was changing her diapers, and now she's on her way to becoming a beautiful young lady. Oops, almost brought myself to tears. Today, I'm going to talk about back when I was a bit more of a beauty myself. Please, listen if you'd like. This was about 8 years ago. I had just finished a month-long stay at my parents' home in preparation for giving birth, and returned to the home where I lived with my husband, Tommy, baby in arms. I thought we were starting our happy life as a family of 3, but it turned out to be a family of 4. Yes, for some reason, my mother-in-law Melinda, who was supposed to be at her own house, was there to greet me. I was told, "I thought my son wouldn't manage on his own, so I moved in to help." Well, maybe a man alone would struggle with daily life. Not being there, I thought, maybe that's just how it is, and thanked my Melinda for taking care of my husband. She seemed quite pleased, saying, "I'm honored to have been of help." And as I entered the house, everything was neat and the air was clear. Perhaps it was good she lived with us. But then, a problem arose. My overseas brand wedding ring, which I had to remove and store away because it no longer fit during pregnancy, was nowhere to be found. It was supposed to be in the bedroom drawer. Where's the ring? My overseas brand, where did it go? I searched everywhere, only to find something even stranger. My overseas brand bag was missing. The bag I had saved up for and bought with much effort before I was married. Wait a minute. Even the shoes from an overseas brand I'd splurged on as a birthday gift to myself were missing. Now, the ring is one thing, but it's really strange for such large items to disappear. After all, I only used them on special occasions and hardly ever moved them from their storage. Feeling something was off, I hurried back to the living room and asked Melinda.
Melinda, did you tidy up the bedroom closet?
What's the rush? I haven't touched the bedroom, she replied. If Melinda didn't tidy up, then it must have been stolen, right?
So, have you noticed anything missing? Was there anything unusual while I was away?
I asked. However, both my husband and Melinda, avoiding eye contact, denied anything was amiss.
Nothing happened, right, Mom?
Yes, it was all normal. I told the two, who were speaking so strangely, my wedding ring, brand name bag, and shoes are missing. My bedroom was burglarized. Melinda, surprised, asked,
Are you sure you looked everywhere? Are you sure you looked everywhere?
In my panic, I could only nod at Melinda while frantically calling the police on my mobile phone.
Hello, is this the police? I've been burglarized. The situation and address? What are you calling the police for?
Melinda shouted at me, clearly upset by the police's questions. Caught off guard by her scolding, I froze, staring blankly. The woman on the phone kept asking, What's going on? Oh, sorry, you needed the situation and address, right? While feeling Melinda's disgruntled gaze, I relayed the details to the police. In less than 10 minutes, 2 police officers arrived at our home. They wanted to see the room where the theft occurred. However, Melinda kept insisting.
It's a misunderstanding, please leave. It's a misunderstanding, please leave.
Even if it were a misunderstanding, things were indeed missing. Both supposed to be victims in the house, I went pale at the thought of strangers entering our home. While Melinda was red-faced, angrily saying,
We don't need the police.
Even my husband was trying to calm me down, saying, It's just a ring or two, it's fine.
Just a ring or two. That's our treasured ring we bought together. It's irreplaceable.
I retorted, while the police officer watched me intently.
All right, ma'am, could you please show me the room? Your husband and mother-in-law can stay in the living room. We'll talk to them.
With that, the older police officer asked the younger one to handle my husband and Melinda, while guiding me to the bedroom. Melinda was still furiously saying,
Don't just go looking around someone's house.
After all, this house, though in my husband's name, is also my home. By that logic, Melinda could have been told the same about intruding in someone's house. Of course, Melinda didn't seem to realize that. Confused by their behavior, the older officer asked me,
Have you been living with your mother-in-law all this time? No, I went back to my parents' home for childbirth. I just returned today and found out Melinda had been living here while I was gone.
Did your husband ever discuss letting his mother stay here with you? No, I didn't agree to that.
I see. Before you went to your parents, were the missing items here?
They were. I don't have proof for the ring and bag, but I have a photo of the shoes. I was thinking of selling them secondhand. See, the saved date on the data is exactly a month ago.
Right, so it must have been lost after you went to your parents' house.
The police officer said, narrowing his eyes as if piecing something together.
Let's take a look at the room,
he suggested. I led the officer to the bedroom and explained again where the missing items had been stored. While complying with the fingerprint collection, the officer asked,
What's that?
He pointed to a handkerchief on the shelf, unfamiliar to me. It wasn't mine or my husband's. I thought, that shelf is where we keep our favorite photos and paintings, and my husband knows I always keep it tidy. I've never seen his handkerchief placed there. I don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't notice it until you mentioned it. It wasn't there before I went to my parents' house. Missing valuables, yet unfamiliar items appearing. If this isn't creepy, what is? Feeling frightened, the officer asked.
May I check this a bit more?
I answered. Please do.
This has a camera hidden in it.
What? Surprised, I watched as the officer unfolded the handkerchief on his palm, revealing a small camera tucked inside.
For what espionage? Let's look around the room a bit more.
The officer, calm amidst my confusion, checked other drawers, different from where the missing items were stored.
Found it.
He pulled out a cable from a drawer near my husband's side of the bed. The cable fit the small camera he had found earlier.
The mother's behavior is a bit suspicious, but the husband seems fishy too,
the officer said with a wry smile. I, unable to grasp the situation, asked,
What do you mean? Your husband might have installed this camera. We found a cable for playback,
he explained.
What? For what purpose? I'd like to check the video. Can I use that computer?
He asked, pointing to my husband's laptop. Confused, yet hoping to uncover the truth, I agreed.
Sure, go ahead.
The officer connected the camera to the laptop with practiced ease. The laptop seemed to recognize the camera, and a menu opened up. The officer selected some command and chose a random file from a folder. To our shock, the video displayed our bedroom. I went with the officer to the living room, where my husband and Melinda were waiting. Melinda immediately complained.
Really now? You making a fuss and calling the police? We had to undergo questioning, felt like criminals. It's so upsetting.
My husband, too, was in a foul mood.
Making a big deal out of nothing.
Enough, whose fault is this? In anger, I slammed my hand on the living room table. I'm still recovering from giving birth, and they made me run around and panic like this. I was seething.
How dare you act so brazenly after what you've done? I know everything now. Look at this.
I took the laptop from the officer, opened the screen, and played the video we'd just seen. My husband and Melinda gasped.
Huh?
As they saw themselves on the screen, rummaging through the bedroom shelves, taking my ring and bag and leaving. In the video, my husband was telling Melinda,
With the money from selling these, we can both have some fun.
Melinda was laughing.
Who would have thought she had such sellable items? It's hard to prosecute F.A. and Melinda living together for theft, she said. Mom, you're amazing. So knowledgeable.
So shameless, even when their misdeeds are pointed out. Not only did they not feel guilty, but their conversation suggested they were proud of their cunning.
I thought I was targeted because I happened to have brand name items, but who would have guessed the culprits were inside the house?
My agitation and anger grew, while my husband looked scared. Melinda still didn't think she did anything wrong. In fact, she kept denying it, despite being clearly seen in the video.
Okay. Since you insist, let's watch this,
I said, playing a different video.
Oh, come on. What about your wife?
If that's the case, aren't you okay with your husband? On the screen, Melinda was intimately engaged with a much younger man, maybe in his 30s, on a bed.
It's okay, I only need you, Rocky. My husband is nothing to me.
I'm so happy. But, my wife has been cutting my allowance again.
Again? What an incapable wife. Don't worry, I'll give you some money.
Melinda then wrapped her arms around the young man's neck, embracing him. It was as if she was trying to absorb the youthfulness from the younger man. Though I hadn't seen it before, it looked like something straight out of a club scene. Thank you, Melinda. I love you.
You're so sweet.
Seeing the video of Melinda's alluring voice and actions, even my husband couldn't help but look away. The young police officer looked queasy, as if he was about to say,
Ugh.
And the older officer quietly scolded him.
Hey, stop it. Don't show such nonsense.
Melinda yelled, her face turning bright red. My husband, perhaps feeling it was none of his concern, seemed about to laugh at Melinda losing her usual composure.
Really, Tommy? You think it's funny? Huh? Please watch this too.
I played another video.
I love Nancy the most.
Then another.
I've never loved anyone but Anna, just kidding. How was it? Good.
And another.
Ashley, stroke my head.
Hearing this, the young police officer burst into laughter beyond control, while the older one scolded him again. In the video, Ashley was stroking my husband's head, asking, "How many others are you seeing?" My husband responded like a script.
Only you, Ashley.
Liar. At this point in the video, there were already 3 women, and including those I just checked, at least 8.
Really? I love you, Tommy.
So, about that.
I know. You mean the bag, right? Don't worry, I make good money. I'll get you a gift. Yay!
This pattern repeated with the other women. Apparently, my husband had been leading a life where he gave women gifts in exchange for letting him secretly film their encounters. What a hobby. You might have noticed, he's making a huge loss buying brand name items for each video. And the only video showing Melinda's actions was that one. It seems the recording button was accidentally left on, capturing the moment Melinda stole my things and her own actions. Rest assured, it's not some peculiar hobby to watch Melinda's actions, or maybe not. Melinda and my husband, embarrassed and exposed even to the police, were pale and slumped in defeat. But it wasn't over yet. Just as I thought this, the intercom rang.
They're here,
I said. Melinda looked at me with a tired face. Ignoring her gaze, I went to the entrance and welcomed Bruce. Seeing Bruce, Melinda lost her words and screamed.
Seems like you were cheating in your son's house, huh? Cecile told me. No. It's not like that. What do you mean it's not? Cecile, could you play the video? With pleasure.
After casting a cold glance at the bewildered Melinda, Bruce burst into loud laughter as he watched her flirtatious video.
An old woman like this, seducing a young man for money, aren't you ashamed? Ahahaha. Oh, my stomach hurts from laughing.
What? I thought Bruce would be shocked by the video, but his unexpected reaction surprised me.
You're just a wallet to him, clearly after your money. Pathetic. Ahahaha.
Bruce laughed uproariously, clapping his hands. Melinda, embarrassed, blushed furiously, her previously defiant attitude gone.
That was funny. Let's see my son's too. Let's see how much he's grown.
Bruce said, laughing while focusing on a particular part of my husband in the video. After watching all the infidelity videos, Bruce commented with a straight face.
Both mother and son, letting young people take their money. Beyond disappointing, it's pitiful.
Needless to say, Melinda and my husband would have preferred being laughed at. What we learned from questioning was that Melinda accidentally found out about my husband's affairs. She kept it secret in exchange for using our house to meet her own lover. For Melinda, it was embarrassing to be seen with a much younger man, and her lover, lacking money and having a wife, couldn't easily find places to meet. For my husband, having the freedom to invite girls he met online without going out was cheaper and more convenient. Thus, Melinda and my husband, keeping each other's affairs secret, turned this house into their paradise of indulgence. Becoming accomplices. Their arrangement worked by one leaving the house while the other met their lover. Melinda never imagined the videos would be accidentally recorded.
I'm sorry, Cecile. Bruce. I'll return the money, do anything, please, forgive me. Me too, Cecile. I'll change, do anything, please forgive me.
Melinda and my husband begged, bowing their heads. Bruce and I exchanged glances and laughed.
You'll do anything, right?
Indeed, anything? They both answered.
Of course.
To our question.
Then let's divorce. What?
Our simultaneous declaration to divorce left my husband and Melinda in shock.
You said you'd do anything, right? Let's get a divorce. No, wait, anything but that, please.
No way. Bruce, without hesitation, refused Melinda's desperate pleas and deep apologies. The divorce was not retracted. My husband, too, was crying and deeply apologizing, but I did not withdraw the divorce either. Thus, only hours after returning from my parents' home post-childbirth, my divorce was decided upon, under police supervision. Later, I had my husband pay me the same amount as the sold items as compensation in the divorce trial. Additionally, I demanded double the standard amount for alimony and compensation for infidelity. Why double? I slightly intimidated them by saying,
You know, your mistresses seem to be married. I could inform their spouses.
This was mainly a bluff, as I didn't even know their names at the time. And it's like I noticed that they're married because of the ring in the video. The threat was effective immediately, given the number of mistresses involved. My husband, terrified at the thought of being sued by each spouse, agreed to pay double the standard amount. Meanwhile, Bruce furiously obtained the lover's contact details from a crying Melinda and called him over. He informed the lover and his wife of the affair, leading to their divorce too. Both spouses demanded compensation from their cheating partners in the divorce trials. Though I promised not to inform the mistress's spouses, I never said I wouldn't demand compensation from the mistresses themselves. After extracting all the communication from my husband's smartphone, I contacted each woman to claim compensation for the affair, which they agreed to pay. Secretly, I was glad my husband had so many mistresses. It turned out to be quite profitable. But, as a single mother without a steady job, I knew I could never have too much money. Turning the harm I suffered into financial compensation didn't erase the damage done. So, with a substantial sum of money, I divorced my husband. 8 years have passed since then. Eventually, my husband ended up paying compensation to his mistress's spouses too. Their husbands, noticing their wives suddenly had a lot of money, grew suspicious. This led to the discovery of the affairs, resulting in some divorces. My husband, now overwhelmed with debt from the numerous compensations, was offered help by a certain woman. A goddess descended, he must have thought. But alas, this woman turned out to be a bad one. He thought they were close to marriage, only to find out she was already engaged to another man. My husband had spent what little money he had on a ring and dates for her, only to end up with a big loss and a broken heart. He never learns. Of course, I can't muster any sympathy for him. Melinda, having proposed marriage to her affair partner after her divorce, was spectacularly rejected. Still, she didn't give up, repeatedly ambushing him on his commute, until she was cautioned under a public nuisance ordinance. Of course, naturally, that was the end of her relationship with her lover, who, as Bruce said, had only seen her as a wallet from the start. Well, everyone should be able to see it. Melinda was the only one who hadn't realized she was being used. It's a laughable tale. As for Bruce, after separating from Melinda and becoming estranged from his son, I worried about him being alone, but it seems the compensation money from the divorce trial sparked an interest in bonsai. Now he's happily involved in a circle with people who share his hobby. That's a relief. Though I didn't expect it, I looked him up and, sure enough, he'd even set up an SNS account. I've discreetly followed you, father-in-law. And me, honestly, fed up with men. Marriage, no more, and still going strong as a single mother. I relied on my parents until my child was old enough for daycare, then started job hunting. Juggling child rearing, it took about a year, but I found a great company that's understanding of single mothers. There are others like me there, so although we sometimes work late, we're usually allowed to leave on time. I used to think single mothers had to work non-stop, but with proper allowances and just my daughter to care for, we live quite normally without extravagant luxuries. There's talk of a promotion when my child reaches middle school. I haven't decided yet, but I want to consider what will make my daughter happiest and my parents too. Despite everything, the joy comes from meals shared with my daughter, and sometimes my parents. Oh, I did well to leave that man. Serves him right. He never even got to be called dad by my adorable daughter. My marriage ended in a crazy way, but as a parent, I still hope my daughter finds a good person and has a happy marriage. Until the day she brings home a wonderful man, I'll do my best as a mother. So, off to work again today.
I'll take care of my part. She's too clueless to notice anything. But are you sure you're ready on your end? Everything's set here. This will go perfectly. My husband, Mike, said with a sinister smile I'd never seen before. He seemed to be on a video call with his sister, Kate. The tone of their conversation felt unsettling, so I froze in the hallway, choosing to listen rather than enter the living room. Mike hadn't realized I was home yet. As I strained to hear their exchange, my heart raced. What I overheard made me tremble with fear. Mike and Kate were plotting together, planning what sounded like an elaborate crime. I have to get out of here. If I stay, something terrible is going to happen. Shaken to my core, I gathered my courage and quietly headed for the front door, careful not to make a sound. Without delay, I left the house and drove straight to my father's home, seeking his help. How dare he mess with my precious daughter? I'll make sure he regrets it. My father's stern expression and his ominous words might scare some people. To strangers, he might come off as a rough or dangerous man. But in truth, my father is. My name is Anne. I've been married to Mike, a company CEO, for 10 years now. Sadly, we've been unable to have children, but our marriage has remained strong regardless. I work as a nurse and have been promoted to head nurse thanks to my hard work. However, with great responsibility comes a demanding workload, and Mike and I often live like ships passing in the night. Despite his own busy schedule as a CEO, Mike has always shown understanding for the challenges of my rotating day and night shifts. Don't overdo it. I'm always worried about you, Anne. Thanks, Mike. Sorry for leaning on you so much. My hospital is large, and the number of patients we handle is overwhelming. For years, my life has been a routine of work, exhaustion, and sleep. Even with his packed schedule, Mike has always stepped up to help with housework, doing things like cleaning and laundry when I couldn't. I couldn't thank him enough for his kindness. Mike and I have lived this way, respecting and supporting each other, for years. His thoughtful gestures and caring nature made him a husband I was proud of. But there was one issue: Mike's family. As the eldest son, Mike has a younger sister named Kate. From the very first meeting, I didn't have a good impression of Kate. She didn't hide her hostility toward me and often made snide or sarcastic remarks. "So you're Mike's wife? Wow, Mike, your taste in women is terrible. Couldn't you have found someone better than this plain woman?" At our first family gathering, Kate insulted me as a plain woman, leaving me stunned. Fortunately, Mike quickly scolded her with a stern tone, but that didn't stop her. Every time we met, she continued to treat me with hostility. When I once asked why she hated me so much, she bluntly said, "I just don't like you." It seemed we were simply incompatible. Although I grew to strongly dislike her because of her constant jabs, I kept my distance and tried to tolerate her for Mike's sake. Kate lived with her mother, Jane, at their family home. Mike's father had passed away from illness a few years before we got married. "I'm taking care of Mom. That's why you can work so freely. Taking care of Mom is supposed to be your responsibility, not mine." Kate often threw this at me as if I owed her, but from an outsider's perspective, the care Jane received didn't seem adequate. Jane had suffered a fall at home years ago, injuring her legs and back, which left her unable to walk on her own. Although she could manage short trips to the bathroom with a walker, she needed assistance for nearly everything else. Kate claimed to be taking care of her, but Jane was left in what could only be described as neglect. Jane's room was often filled with stale air, as if it hadn't been ventilated in weeks. She lay bedridden in filthy sheets, surrounded by scattered trash on the floor. Whenever I visited, I'd try to clean up the mess, but Kate would stop me, saying, "Don't do things without permission." Kate's caregiving was sloppy at best. Most of Jane's needs were left to visiting caregivers, who came a few times a week. Despite offering advice on how to improve Jane's living conditions, Kate refused to listen. When I could no longer stand by, I tried to take matters into my own hands. But Kate strongly resisted, making it impossible to help Jane. "Hey, Mike, can't we do something about Jane's care?" I approached Mike, hoping we could address the situation. "Kate's handling Mom's care. If we interfere, it'll only upset her. Let's give it some time." Mike's gentle nature sometimes made him indecisive. Even though he acknowledged my concerns, he didn't want to confront Kate. But as a nurse, I couldn't ignore the neglect Jane endured. I offered advice to Kate multiple times, but it only made her furious. And then, something unbelievable happened. "Kate, we've been getting calls about you." Multiple calls, actually. Do you know why? One day, at work, I was unexpectedly called in by the head nurse. She explained that the hospital had received numerous complaints about me. The claims stemmed from online rumors stating, "A daughter of a dangerous man is working here." My name had been specifically mentioned in the posts, which had alarmed some hospital clients. Head nurse, I have no idea what this is about, but these accusations are completely false. I denied the claims outright, assuring her they were baseless. She accepted my explanation for the time being, but the defamatory posts continued. Soon, whispers and rumors about me spread among my colleagues, and I started hearing hurtful comments. Who could possibly be behind such lies? I realized this situation could affect my job, so I secretly hired a lawyer to uncover the person responsible for the online defamation. It didn't take long to find the culprit. "Why did you post those lies?" I confronted Kate directly. When the lawyer revealed the name of the person behind the posts, my suspicions were confirmed. The detailed content of the posts included information only a family member could know. Thinking back, Kate had only met my father once at our wedding. Despite my father being a government employee and an upstanding man, Kate had repeatedly remarked on his stern appearance, saying, "He looks dangerous." "What are you talking about? Stop accusing me of things I didn't do," Kate said with feigned innocence. "Don't bother pretending. We know you're the one who spread those lies about me online. If you keep it up, I'll have no choice but to report you to the police." "Eck, you're so dramatic. It was just a harmless prank." "Fine, I'll stop." Kate smirked, showing no remorse. While the posts ceased after that confrontation, the damage had already been done. The rumors persisted, and I was still labeled as someone with dangerous family connections. Even though my boss and colleagues understood the truth, explaining the situation to patients was much harder. As a result, I was reassigned to duties that didn't involve direct patient care. Initially, I intended to keep quiet about the ordeal, hoping to restore my reputation at work over time. But with the impact it had on my career, I couldn't stay silent any longer. I decided to tell Mike about Kate's actions. At first, Mike couldn't believe it. "Kate would never do something like that," he said. But when I showed him the legal documents confirming her involvement, he had no choice but to accept the truth. That idiot. Why would she do this? Mike was furious. He called Kate to his home and confronted her, Don't you ever pull something like this again. He scolded her harshly. Even Kate, who was always cold toward me, couldn't defy her brother, and reluctantly apologized, saying, "I'm sorry." Seeing Mike stand up for me made me feel incredibly supported. Months passed after the incident, and I was finally able to return to my usual duties at work. Everything's back to normal now, I thought. Work was going well. Mike remained as caring as ever, and life seemed peaceful again. But then, something strange happened. It all began with Mike's puzzling behavior. "And don't you think it's time to get rid of this shelf?" Mike suddenly said to me. He pointed to a shelf I'd been using since my single days. It wasn't expensive, and although it had scratches here and there, it was still functional. I couldn't understand why Mike brought it up so abruptly. "Why are you saying this out of the blue?" "Sure, it's old, but it still works fine. We've been in this apartment for a long time. It's getting a bit monotonous. I want to redecorate. Come on, let me buy you a new one." "All right, if you insist. You're acting strange, though." With that, Mike began gradually getting rid of my furniture. Not just the shelf, but also my dresser and desk. He claimed they were too old, and carted them away. Each time I objected, saying they're still usable, he would smile and reply, "I'll get you new ones." I wondered if he had suddenly gotten into feng shui or something. Since none of these items were particularly important to me, I decided to let him have his way. One day, after a night shift, I came home early in the morning and heard Mike's voice coming from the living room. He usually slept in late, so I was surprised to hear him up so early. I stopped in the hallway while he remained in the living room. Just as I was about to open the door, I froze. "And still at work? I'll handle things on my end." "Okay, then I'll leave tonight's matter to you, Kate." Mike spoke with a sinister smile I had never seen before. It sounded like he was on a video call with Kate. The tone of their conversation was unsettling, so I stayed quiet and listened from the hallway. "Do you think she'll notice?" "No way. She's too oblivious to figure it out." "How about you? Are you ready?" "I'm all set. This will go perfectly." They started enthusiastically discussing a criminal plan. I shivered as I continued to eavesdrop. Mike and Kate were conspiring to carry out an elaborate crime. I need to get out. If I stay here, something terrible will happen. Realizing Mike's kindness had been a complete lie, I forced my trembling body to move, quietly making my way to the front door. I left the house and ran as fast as I could. It seemed Mike hadn't noticed. To stay safe, I rushed to my parents' house. Since I had called ahead, my dad was already waiting for me, despite the early hour. "Are you okay?" "Yay, Dad, thanks. I'm sorry for worrying you." "You have nothing to apologize for, and they're the ones who are wrong. How dare they mess with my daughter? I'll make them pay." My dad's intimidating appearance made his words sound ominous. If someone only knew him by his looks, they might believe the rumors Kate had spread. But my dad wasn't some dangerous person. He was a highly respected police detective. Though he retired a few years ago, I couldn't imagine a more reliable person to have on my side. After hearing my story, Dad seemed to revert to his old self, saying, "Leave it to me." He advised me to act as if nothing was wrong, and let Mike and Kate believe they were in control. If what I overheard was true, their plan was set to happen tonight. My father assured me that there was no immediate danger, and advised me to return to the house where Mike was waiting. "You're late. Didn't you say you'd be back by morning today?" Mike greeted me with his usual gentle smile. He looked like a completely different person compared to when he was discussing the plan with Kate. "Yeah, there was an emergency with a patient, and I couldn't leave right away." "I see. That must have been tough. Did you even get any sleep?" "I took a nap at the hospital. I'll be fine, thank you. From every angle, he seemed like a caring husband, worried about his wife's well-being. If I hadn't overheard that horrifying plan by chance, I would never have believed this man was capable of such a scheme. I tried to keep my thoughts hidden, maintaining the appearance of a clueless wife. You're off work tonight, right? Yes, I am. Why do you keep asking that? Oh, right. I guess I've just been forgetful lately. Sorry about that. That day, Mike seemed restless. He kept asking over and over whether I would be home that night. He had taken the day off from work and stayed home, supposedly relaxing, but his eyes were constantly on me. It felt more like he was monitoring me. When night came, we moved to the bedroom to sleep. However, Mike repeatedly got out of bed, glaring at his smartphone with irritation. I pretended to sleep while observing his behavior. He seemed anxious, checking the clock frequently and muttering under his breath, "What's taking so long?" Thinking I was asleep, he tried calling someone multiple times, growing increasingly frustrated when the calls wouldn't connect. It was clear that something had gone wrong with their plan. Mike had no idea I knew about the plan, and he cursed at the unresponsive phone. Then, suddenly, the doorbell rang loudly, despite it being the middle of the night. What now? At first, Mike ignored the doorbell, assuming it was a prank, but as it rang persistently, he had no choice but to respond. "Who is it?" "This is the police. We have a few questions to ask." "What, the police? I didn't do anything." "What's going on?" "The police." I immediately got up from bed, ending my act of sleeping, and moved to invite the police inside, seeing that Mike wasn't opening the door. "Hey, don't let them in without my permission. It could be something serious." "Why are you so worried? Or do you have something to hide?" Mike averted his eyes when I asked that. When I opened the door, several police officers were standing there with a warrant for Mike's arrest. "You are under arrest on suspicion of conspiracy to commit murder." "What? That's absurd. I didn't do anything. This has to be a mistake." Mike shouted in denial of the arrest warrant's contents, but his face turned pale. It was clear he had a guilty conscience. Proving this, Mike tried to shove me aside and make a run for it. However, with multiple officers present, escape was impossible, and Mike was quickly restrained. The plan I had overheard between Mike and Kate was beyond belief. The siblings had conspired to attack Jane, their bedridden mother. Kate was supposed to carry out the attack, and when the police stormed Jane's home, they found Kate holding a knife, ready to harm her. If I hadn't provided the police with information beforehand, Jane's life would have been lost. Kate was arrested on the spot for attempted murder. That's why Mike's calls to Kate went unanswered. She had already been taken into custody. According to the police, Kate had confessed everything. She revealed that the plan had been orchestrated by Mike, leading to his arrest warrant. Here's how the full plan unfolded. After attacking Jane, Mike and Kate intended to frame me for the crime. The preparation Mike had made for this plan was to secretly move my personal belongings to Jane's house in advance. The furniture I had used was, of course, covered in my fingerprints. Mike pretended to dispose of these items, but had actually transported them to Jane's room. Inside the shelf, he placed Jane's banking cards, making it look as if I had attacked her for financial gain. Even the knife Kate planned to use had been stolen without my knowledge. It was one I had cherished and used for years. While this evidence alone wasn't enough to convict me, Mike planned to give a false statement claiming I was at home at the time of the crime. He and Kate had intended to provide alibis for each other. If I hadn't uncovered their plan in advance, I might have been wrongfully arrested for a crime I didn't commit. And the motive behind this heinous plan. It was Jane's inheritance and insurance money. My late father-in-law had run a company, and his wealth had been passed on to Jane. Mike's business had been in the red for years, struggling with financial troubles, and Kate's beauty salon was also failing. Desperation drove Mike to devise this plan. Anne, you have to believe me, I could never come up with such a terrible plan. This has to be some mistake. There's no use making excuses. I overheard everything between you and Kate. You'll pay for betraying me. Betray you? That's impossible. We were such a happy couple. Indeed, Mike had always played the part of a good husband, but beneath the surface, he had been betraying me all along. Did you think I didn't know? You tried to frame me because I was in your way, didn't you? Oh, and I know your mistress is pregnant. When I said this coldly, Mike looked shocked. You knew. While working with a lawyer to address the defamation against me, I had also hired a private investigator. This was to gather evidence of Mike's affair. One day, I received a phone call at home from his mistress. She told me, I'm pregnant with Mike's child. Please leave him. At first, I couldn't believe it. I had trusted Mike completely. The thought of him cheating seemed impossible. But the investigator's findings confirmed the mistress's claims she was indeed carrying Mike's child. You thought you'd get Jane's fortune and pin the crime on me. Too bad things didn't go as planned. I taunted him, and Mike turned red with rage. Damn it. If you had just stayed out of the way, everything would have worked out. You ruined everything. The plan was sloppy. That's your fault. Though the plan was poorly thought out, it could have worked if I hadn't overheard their conversation. I was saved by my foresight, and by the fact that my father was a retired detective. After hearing my account, my father quickly contacted his former colleagues, setting the wheels in motion for Mike and Kate's arrests. Let me go. Get me a lawyer. This is a false arrest. Mike struggled to break free, but the police held him firmly, and he couldn't escape. Eventually, he gave up and became quiet, allowing the officers to lead him away in a police car. I've caused you so much trouble, Anne. I'm so sorry. When I met Jane, who had been placed under police protection, she immediately broke down in tears and apologized. Jane admitted that she had sensed for some time that her children might harm her, but she had kept her fears to herself, not wanting to burden anyone. I never imagined they would try to frame you for their crimes, Anne. It's not your fault, Jane. The ones to blame are Mike and Kate. Yes, Mike and Kate were undoubtedly the guilty ones. No matter how desperate their financial situation was, plotting to harm their own mother and frame an innocent spouse was beyond comprehension. More importantly, I'm sorry I couldn't help you sooner. From now on, please rely on me. Oh no, I can't impose on you after you've divorced Mike. I'll move into a care facility, so don't worry about me. I've been thinking about this for a while, Jane. I believe with the right rehabilitation, you could regain your ability to walk. Could you hold off on moving to a facility? I'll help you every step of the way. Let's work together. Kate had neglected Jane, refusing to take her to proper medical appointments, leaving her bedridden in a filthy room. But as a nurse, I had always believed Jane's condition could improve with proper care. I had tried to tell Kate this repeatedly, but she dismissed me, saying it was none of my business. Now, with no one to interfere, we could finally make progress. If you think so, Anne, I'll give rehab a try. Jane started attending rehab sessions at the hospital, and her condition steadily improved. It became clear that her prolonged immobility had worsened her symptoms. A year passed. And why don't we take a trip together? Looking through a travel magazine, Jane smiled as she made the suggestion. That sounds great. Where would you like to go? Let's enjoy some delicious food while we're at it. Jane had fully recovered and was now well enough to go on trips. It was clear that her previous immobility was due to the neglect she suffered under Kate's care. With proper treatment and early rehabilitation, Jane would never have ended up bedridden. After selling the family home, Jane moved into an assisted living apartment, where she now lived independently. With her health and spirit restored, she seemed to be thoroughly enjoying her newfound freedom. I used to spend all my time staring at that filthy ceiling in that house. I can't believe I've recovered so much. It's all thanks to you, Anne. Truly, thank you. Jane always expresses her gratitude to me in this way. Hearing her thank me so often makes me feel a bit embarrassed, but knowing how far she's come from the helpless state she was in fills me with immense joy. Jane was always cheerful and energetic these days. If I hadn't uncovered Mike and Kate's plan, I would never have seen her like this. As for Mike's mistress, she once showed up at Jane's door, carrying a baby, claiming, "I've given you a grandchild, so give me money." Jane, however, coldly turned her away. It had already been determined that the child wasn't Mike's but another man's. Mike was such a fool to be deceived by a woman like that, Jane muttered in exasperation. From prison, Mike frequently sent letters. In them, he begged for forgiveness and expressed a desire to live with us after his release. But neither Jane nor I had any intention of forgiving him. We had moved far away from our old home, making it almost impossible for Mike or Kate to find us after their release. We allowed the letters to be delivered, but never replied. Although both would eventually be released, we would never see them again. Jane occasionally asked me, "Are you planning to get married again?" To which I always replied with a laugh, "I don't need another man in my life." Mike's betrayal had left a deep scar, and I decided to focus entirely on my work instead of pursuing any romantic relationships. However, something completely unexpected happened to me. After moving and starting a new job at a general hospital, I was assigned to care for a male patient who later confessed he had fallen for me at first sight. After his discharge, he began pursuing me relentlessly. At first, I thought he was joking and dismissed him lightly, but it became clear he was serious, as he refused to give up, no matter how many times I turned him down. Eventually, he confessed his desire to date me with marriage in mind. Though I was hesitant and uncertain, I had to admit I was growing fond of him, which left me conflicted. After failing once, I don't think I could ever remarry. In my uncertainty, I turned to someone for advice. "You've been through so much because of Mike. I'm so sorry for what happened. But from what you've told me, he seems passionate and genuine. Why not give it a chance?" Jane's encouragement gave me the courage to consider the possibility of a relationship. I shared my past with him, my divorce, Mike's betrayal, and the pain it caused. He listened without hesitation and assured me that he was serious about building a life with me. And so I began dating him. He was the complete opposite of Mike, honest and sincere, with no hidden agenda. After introducing him to Jane at a family gathering, everyone, including Jane, agreed that he was the right person for me. Eventually, we held our wedding ceremony. Jane attended, and it was as if she were celebrating the marriage of her own daughter. She cried tears of joy throughout the day. Later, my husband and I welcomed a baby girl into our lives. Her birth brought immense happiness to everyone, my parents, his family, and Jane. The trauma of nearly being caught in a criminal conspiracy lingered for years, but I knew that my husband and daughter would help me heal and move forward.